Hi everybody and welcome to today's workshop. Yeah, it's a bit different than usually because of my ongoing COVID infection. I'm still at home and yeah, we didn't want to postpone this little workshop for today when we introduce some of Toontrack's very own products that you can also get if you take our courses for audio engineering at HOFA-College. So by now we have some special offers going on if you take the big one, which is the diploma course consisting of basic, pro and many short courses. And for the big product we have some Toontrack products to share, which is the highly acclaimed Superior Drummer line, including 2 expansion packs, and then we also have the EZbass and some expansion packs and the EZkeys, which we would like to take a look at today and see what we get. I also use some of the Toontrack products, and I would like to show you my approach when it comes to producing audio and yeah, how you can use these great products for let's say song arrangements, songwriting, even production steps or final mixing, who knows. So yeah, let's dive into today's workshop and see what we get. So I would like to start with a little overview of what you can get, which is the Superior Drummer line for the diploma course. It's been a great journey ever since, starting with EZDrummer and Superior Drummer, which is a more detailed drum programming software and tool that you can use. And there are also some expansion packs by highly acclaimed audio engineers, including Eddie Kramer, Al Schmidt, or even Bob Rock, who also produced Metallica and all bands like that. So there's quite a lot of expansion packs going on. So yeah, you can actually choose which ones that suit you and can go for it. And yeah, we will definitely take a look at what's going on here today. So the EZDrummer line that comes with our complete bundle is also a really great tool. It's not as big as the Superior Drummer line, but it's still great for producing purposes, for programming drums, if you would like to use some samples for triggering drums or whatever. So you can feel free to join in. And yeah, let's take a quick look at EZbass. As the name already reveals, we have virtual bass guitar instruments. Actually, there are many instruments that have been sampled over the years, and yeah, we're going to take a detailed look at these options and what you can get. For example, there are, I think, up to 10 different expansion packs that you can use. And yeah, let's finish the whole thing with the EZkeys. And the EZkeys also has some great products to offer. For example, great pianos, grand pianos, but also some vintage stuff like Wurlitzer or Rhodes, and some cinematic pads that we're going to take a look at as well. So let's start the whole thing. I've prepared a little session. A friend of mine asked me that he has a song and he would like I should join the party with a drum programming that suits the song. So yeah, I did it with Superior Drummer. Let's take a quick look at what's going on here. For example, if you load the software and start it, you can either start from scratch, so you're able to create your own drum kit and your cymbals and your cymbal setting and the amount of toms, floor toms and rack toms that you would like to use, but also a lot of snare drums, as you can see from the list. There are many names up there, like the classic Black Beauty by Ludwig, but also some Tama, Pearl, Yamaha, Premier stuff, and some highly acclaimed stuff. So there's quite a lot samples and instruments to choose from. as well as the cymbal settings, and even drum kits as a whole. So it doesn't need to be a snare drum, so you can also go for let's say whole drum kits. Now, for example, you can choose the Superior Drummer line and you work with presets, or you can create your very own presets, like, let's say, an example for metal would be Andy Sneap, which is a well-known metal producer from the UK. For example, if we take Andy Sneap Kit 1, it will look like that, which seems to me like a combination of a Tama snare, some pearl shells, but also a very, very big and huge bass drum. That sounds like that. There's quite a lot going on here. So yeah, that's really, really cool to form different drum kits and to get an impression of what it's all about. So another great thing is that you have your very own mixer. So it's not only about choosing the right instrument, but choosing the correct settings for the mixer. Like if you want to have the toms and different elements, for example, like the kick drums consisting of a microphone that has been placed inside the bass drum and a microphone that has been placed outside the bass drum, close to the little hole on the drum head, but also a sub kick that is quite often used in the studio. The snare consists of two microphones, the snare top and snare bottom, and so it goes with the hi-hat, the rack toms, the floor toms, and we even have overheads that you can adjust in a stereo setup, but you can use room microphones that has been used up to surround settings. So a big thing of Superior Drummer is that you can use surround settings if you are capable and if you would like to use it. Usually the audio world still is focusing on this stereo feel, but it's actually up to you how you would like to use the software. And as you may have seen, there are a few inserts going on. We have many insert slots and effects like EQs, compressors. So you can use your tools and plugins from the DAW that you are already familiar with, but you can also decide to let's say, oh, I would like to do everything that's going to be happening on the drums in my software in Superior Drummer. So you can use the mixer, you can use the different effect settings, you can even use reverbs, as you can see here, that has been used as send effects. And yeah, it all comes together like a typical channel strip, where you can also set up the bleed level, so how much mic leaking you will have between the different microphones, which is a very cool thing. So, but let's go back to the actual track that I've prepared, and I did a preset because the song is called Heaven in My Arms. So I chose to go with a more, let's say, vintage kind of sound. So the snare isn't is rather dull and not too bright, as well as the toms and the bass drum. The cymbals are very smooth. So yeah, I tried to capture that kind of Pink Floyd sound that we are going to hear now. So let's get an idea of what's actually going on here. Let's start with the song, and please take a listen. As you can hear, it's a kind of smooth and mellow track, and I decided to match the overall feel. It actually hasn't been mixed yet regarding the drums, so it's just a plain sound that comes from Superior Drummer. I didn't use any effects at all, so it's just the usual tracks that they sampled, and some of the room tracks included as well. So we have ribbon mics for the ambience, a little bit of overheads, and yeah, the group tracks are even leveled to 0. So yeah, I just did a little bit of leveling with the faders, and I think it actually works pretty well, so that the sound is getting huge and fits the song. So if you are interested, we can take a look at the drum programming just for a second. As you can see, I usually use the drum editor of Cubase because I'm not so familiar to the actual MIDI editor. I use the MIDI editor when it comes to playing keys or real notes, but if you have drums, you usually have very quick impulses going on, and that's why I prefer to have a proper mapping that really matches the instrument, because if you yeah, if you hit a note, the bass drum or the snare drum or whatever, it's just a quick transient going on and not very much of a sustain that you can apply with using MIDI notes, and that's why I use the drum editor. And as you can see, I did a custom mapping. That's also a good way of keeping things simple, that you know, okay, where are my cymbals, where are my toms, and what's actually going on. For example, you can see that for the hi-hats, starting at this note, there's quite a lot of information going on different notes. So we have even for the open hi-hats, we have like 5 to 6 different samples being used, but also velocity layers, so everything comes together. And there is one thing in the song that you can really hear how the hi-hat works and how I used all of them, like all of them together to make it happen. For example, we have this one, quick one, closed one, and then it opens. So let's give it a little bit of a shot. Yeah, I can really hear how the hi-hat is opening and how there's something like a chorus going on, something like a climax in the song. So I thought about, oh, that might fit the overall production, so it's not too sterile and we can open up the whole thing in a musical kind of way. And there it goes. So we have when it comes to the verses, we have a pattern which is based on a usual groove, nothing too special, but a lot of ghost notes and rolls are being used. And when it comes to the chorus and the bridge, we focus on a groove that is more based on the right cymbal. So we have something like a contrast, although everything is still quite together. And if we take a look at the beginning of the song, you might have heard there is some cymbal swell going on. So I used a grid with many variations, so I'm actually able to make this happen. So let's take a listen to the cymbal swell. And another one. So I thought about, oh, that might be a cool way to start the whole thing, because it's a very atmospheric track, and yeah, there should be some air left, and the song should be open to be able to breathe and to not overdo what's actually happening at all. So yeah, I think the whole thing really turned out great. in the end you can see when it comes to yeah, the last third of the song, there's also a crash ride being used. So it's not only a ride cymbal that you use the usual way with your drumstick, but you use it as a crash cymbal, so you hit it in a different kind of way, and intensity grows at this point. And that's why I thought about, okay, maybe using a crash cymbal, but not a real crash cymbal, but a ride cymbal that is used in a play style that you would actually hit a crash cymbal, might be a cool way to raise the actual power that the song might need at this point. So let's take a quick listen. Okay, so a little bit of a drum programming journey here going on. So there was a question asking me how I create the actual drum maps. Well, it actually depends on your DAW that you use. In Cubase, there's quite a cool way to create your own custom map. For example, if I access the drum editor, we have the Superior Drummer 3 standard drum map, which I had assigned myself. So you're actually able, if you go to the drum map settings, that you can see, okay, where are the actual sounds that you can, for example, figure out by using it on a keyboard or looking in the maps, and then you can give them names. For example, what I did is B0 would be the bass drum short, then the usual normal bass drum on C1, which is quite common actually. Then we have a centered snare, a rim shot snare, and a side stick. So the centered snare is just the usual snare hit. The rim shot is an actual very, very powerful hit on the snare, and the side stick or cross stick is something that you are quite familiar with as well, I guess. So yeah, the same goes for the actual cymbals and for the hi-hats that I had assigned. So this way I have most of the things that are happening in the drum world all together, and yeah, it actually works. But there is also another way. For example, if you are not a Cubase user or not a user of a DAW that has a decent drum editor, there is an option to use the own drum editor of Superior Drummer, which is quite cool. So for this purpose, I can drag and drop my MIDI file, which actually worked. So here we are. And this is something like yeah, their very own editor that you can use to make the whole thing happen. So if I double click, I'm actually able to access their own drum editor, which is quite cool. As you can see, the cool thing is the mapping already exists, so you don't have to match it with your DAW. You can all do it in Superior Drummer, which is really cool. For example, if I open the layers for the kick or for the snare drums, there are quite a lot going on, like a flam, like a closed roll. I think you need to activate them if you really want to use them, which is quite advanced, but there are possibilities. And as I had already mentioned, for the hi-hat, as you can see, there are some different things for the edges, how you hit them, how you open them one after another. So if we go to bar, I think it was 34, you can see, if I zoom in, that there are some different hi-hats going on, which we have already seen in the drum editor of Cubase, but also here it can be seen how it develops and how yeah, it actually works in this context. So I can use it and have a usual option to actually move everything and use quantize options and all of that, and I can play back straight from the plugin. So let's have another listen to this little section here. as you can hear, the hi-hat opens up. So this is why I use not only one of them, but I think it's up to 5 different ones, and which makes it more realistic and more, let's say, playable for a drummer as he or she might play it in real life. Yeah. Okay. So that's it for now for this little track. I would like to open another one. And we all bring it together one after another. So let's open up this little track. It's just a section, but it's a section that we can use for production, and also to take a look at what's going on with the bass. So this little section of that song is consisting of a drum groove and a bass pattern, which is based on a D minor pentatonic scale, so nothing really special going on here, but there are a lot of things that we can actually do when it comes to forming melodies and for producing and for developing what's actually going on. So let's take another listen. Okay, so far so good. As you can see, I already used the EZbass with some setting from the modern presets. So it is one of the expansion packs, which is called EZbass Modern, and as you can see, there are quite a lot of options. So we have finger play style, we have pick play style, which will definitely result in a different sound, because if you play bass with fingers, you will have a softer, a smoother sound, but you might also get more noise regarding the strings that may hit the pickups. So it might be cooler to use a pick or not. So it actually depends on where you are going and where you're focusing on. And yeah, but we can take a listen of what we actually get. So maybe let's start with the clean DI finger plate, and then we'll see what happens. So once again, I really like the fact that they also sampled the string noise and the kind of natural play and vibe, so it's not only sterile, but it can breathe, it can live, it can develop itself like a usual bass player will have these little artifacts going on. So let's take, for example, deep amp. Deep amp is what I would assume an amped mic. So the bass player probably played an amp, and they took a microphone and sampled that actual sound. So I guess we will have more of an overtone and harmonic structure going on, and maybe less low end. That sounds kind of different if you compare it again to the clean DI track. There's more low end going on. So let's take a little bit of the pick samples, for example, heavy pick. That sounds quite interesting. Let's see what happens. yeah, it adds some really dirty and naughty tones and effects to it. So speaking of the effects, there's actually an option if you click on effects that you can adjust a little bit of the signal chain. For example, we have the usual bass controls like the pickups, the bridge, the neck and the tone, which is a relation of both of them. Then we have the amp distortion, a compressor, which is quite cool, so you don't need an actual compressor. You can use it of course, but you can do it in the section. And then we have an option to add the actual sub bass and low end level if it's maybe too much or too less going on. So really cool what's actually going on. And we can also adjust the tuning. We're able to, let's say, like in Superior Drummer, import our very own MIDI files or pre-recorded and pre-edited grooves. It's actually something that I don't really do, although I had this little bass line for this song, but it all comes together in my head, so I'm able to play it by keys or go into the MIDI editor, for example. If we double click, so we have it the piano roll, which you're all familiar with, and so we can see the different ranges of keys, like what's actually going on. Like, as I said, it's a pattern based on the D minor pentatonic, so there's a lot of D going on. The tone D plays a major role, but also C and A and G and maybe E and what's all about. So yeah, that's actually the pattern being used. Quite simple one, but still effective to develop what we can have here. And yeah, that was actually just one of the presets. So it's the EZbass Modern, and we have a lot of things going on to choose from. So I could choose the vintage one, which I also installed for today's workshop. So as you can already see, the bass guitar comes up with a used look, which fits the term vintage. So yeah, you can still choose from a variety of different sounds. For example, I think driven sounds quite interesting. There might be some distortion going on. Let's take a listen of what's actually going to happen. And so on. This workshop is actually a YouTube workshop, so it's YouTube only, and it will remain on YouTube, I guess, like forever. So yeah, there's no need to upload it anywhere. I'm pretty sure that you can access it anytime. And yeah, am I using the database in Superior Drummer 3 or EZbass? Yeah, actually it depends on what I'm going to do. Of course I have my own presets, because over time you focus on some things. It's like using effects like an EQ or a compressor or a reverb plugin that you really like. So you have your go-to tools, and it's actually the same for me. I have a few presets, but I also use what comes with the software, and I also use what comes with my DAW, for example with Cubase. So I'm more familiar using the Cubase editor because I've used it for so many years, but I could try using the Superior Drummer editor as well. I guess it depends on the workflow, and that's what I meant for the drum part. If your DAW doesn't have a decent drum editor and just a plain piano roll MIDI editor, I would actually recommend to use the real drum editor, because it's drums that we talk about and not a melodic instrument like the bass or the keys. So I think the fuse with the bars doesn't really make sense. So a drum editor is a really cool thing, especially when it comes to the mapping and to have some overview, and yeah, and to work with the grid and with short impulses. And yeah, so far so good. I think, yeah, I might come back to this track later on when we talk about EZkeys. Just another example for the bass would be a very soft song. Oh no, let's go on with a metal song. Throw in between. It's not a real easy one, because we We wrote it in 5/8, which is not a quite common meter, but it's really, really fun to play. And nowadays we play it with real instruments, so we have a real drummer, real bass player, real keyboard player, real guitarist, and so on and so on. But when the idea came together in my head, actually, I thought about, okay, it might be cool to get an idea of what it could sound like, and that's why I produced it completely in a virtual way. So everything that you're going to hear, the guitars, not from Toontrack, from another software, but that doesn't play a role today, the keys, which are actually played on real keyboards, but the bass and the drums are all MIDI all the way. So and for this little example I chose a preset because I knew, okay, we might have a real drum recording going on and there is a real drummer who does it, but I wanted to give the drummer an idea of what he can play, or of what he has to play, or of what I want him to play in certain parts. And that's a really, really cool thing, to use all the Toontrack products to give an idea and to have a proper pre-production of what it may sound like in the end, so everybody has some orientation what's going on. And even some producers use tracks of the pre-production stuff for their final mixings and mastering, so I think it's really up to you. In this example, it's all done by MIDI, everything that you are going to hear, and we'll focus on the drums and the bass for this little example, and then we dive in what's actually going to happen. Okay, let's start. Okay, it's quite a lot of notes being played, I know, and maybe we can take a listen and take a look at the drum track first. I used a preset from, I think it's the Metal Foundry Nocturnal Phoenix, and yeah, what I really like about this is we have purple drums. Purple is actually my favorite color, but that doesn't play a role here. But I really think it matches the song. So we have a huge bass drum, which has not only low end, but a lot of energy going on in the higher mids, which is great for metal to cut through the mix and to make it sound snarl and to work in the context. We have a really small snare drum actually, but it's quite huge with the reverb, which has been pre-mixed in this example. So if you go to the mixer, you can see, okay, there are some effects going on like EQ and compression. I guess we can open up one of them so it looks like that. So you have different options to adjust what's actually going on and what you would like to hear and how the sound is being processed. And then we have some reverb, some compression in the bass tracks. So we have the group tracks here, kick, snare, toms, cymbals, ambience, even a reverb track, which is the send return, I guess. And yeah, that's what actually happens with this preset, which is called Nocturnal Phoenix. I think that's a cool name. And yeah, let's give it a listen. And there it goes. So yeah, it's a quite simple drum track, but it's in a song in 5/8, so there's a lot of meters going on and you have to stay focused to not miss any beginning of a bar or what else. And yeah, so it's a quite simple drum groove with some cymbals being played, some double kicks, what is quite common in the metal world, and we have the usual snare hits with a big sound. And yeah, it's processing starting with a groove on the hi-hat, and then it changes, it moves on with the same groove on the right cymbal, on the bell actually. Now it's not only the tip or the shank, but it's the bell. And yeah, that's what makes it special. So for pre-production purposes, it really went great. And yeah, the final result has been good so far. It hasn't been finished yet, but we're working on it. And the bass player was actually quite struggling because he told me, oh, it's really fast. It's a cool bass line that I came up with, but you really have to stay focused to not miss any note and to play as clean as he probably can. So it might take some more practicing, but I think he's already on a really good way. So yeah, let's take a listen of what's actually happening. When listening to the song, I actually thought about, oh, maybe let's do it with a pick sound. It might get cooler if it does that. Maybe not a distorted sound, but for example, a clean dynamic pick. Let's see what's happening. So let's give it another listen. Here it is. Cool thing is that we can also see the notes, like they're hit on the fretboard, and yeah, they're displayed for a quick second, so we can get an idea of what's actually happening. The riff is in E standard tuning. Although it's a 5-string bass guitar, you can still play it on a 5-string bass guitar. It gives you more options if you have the low B string. And not only the low E string, but also the B string. Okay, let's go on. Yeah, well, the riff where it goes to 4/4 is actually kind of Metallica style, so you have the staccato riffs and the muted guitars and the muted bass, which is actually a cool way that you can adjust in the MIDI editor of your DAW. So you have muted notes, or you have them played seamlessly transforming into each other, which might be a cool thing. So I think the sound is really cool, not only for pre-production purposes, but maybe for a final result, if you will. So because nowadays there are so many options and possibilities, like drum programming is used in almost every modern rock or metal production, not only the samples, I guess. So yeah, but it's really up to you. So our approach was really cool on this little track with the 5/8 meter, but also the 4/4, and to give an example and an orientation for all the musicians that are participating in this band and playing their role, so they have an idea if the riffing works, and it actually works pretty damn good. So yeah, it's a lot of time saver, I would say, to give ideas how it can sound, and everybody is able to prepare to get the MIDI files that you can also print in real notes, if you will, or use any kind of software if you are used to reading notes or tabs or whatever. So it's a cool way for production purposes. And as you can see, to give an idea of the sound, there are quite a lot of options. So again, it's just the modern one. We can also, why not use the heavy metal one? You can also see it on the fretboard. Okay, this bass guitar reveals itself as a heavy bass guitar, probably using active pickups with a Mesa amp or whatever. So yeah, let's give it just another go, for example, what is that? In phase finger. Oh, sounds quite interesting. Let's see what's happening. Okay, that wouldn't be an effect that I would use for that song, because the modulation on the effect is actually a little bit too much, so it sounds dull and muddy. But if you have a track which is based on a slower pattern, for example, like a very groovy Sodom or Black Sabbath song, why not adding some modulation effects that you can actually do? For example, we have a section here for the phaser, so it's not too much, and it's not giving you too much options, which might be a cool thing to focus on the actual track and to not find a playground like a virtual analog synthesizer where you can build everything from scratch. So I think it's a really great go-to tool for bass, but also for drums, as we've already seen. Okay, another example for the bass guitar might be this little track. So it's kind of different. It's more like a mellow tune again, but based on a rock theme, I would say. Also some keys are going on, and yeah, let's listen of what the bass is actually doing. It's a very mellow tune, and as you can see, a great example for a 5-string bass, because we really need the low B string. It's a theme written in G minor, so we also have the low E flat, and yeah, you could either tune down a 4-string bass guitar or use a 5-string bass guitar, which makes it easier probably to come up with a proper playing style. I guess playing on fingers matches the song better than playing the whole thing on with a pick. So yeah, you really have the option to express yourself and the emotions that are going on. And yeah, let's take another look at the drum programming, which is based on some rolls and some ghost notes to make it more interesting. As you can see, here we have the drum editor again in Cubase. There are usual snare hits going on, but also some hits with very low intensity and velocity played one after another one. So we have that little roll kind of feel, that little ghost notes, that little yeah, differences in touching the actual drum head, which might match the song. And so it goes. I think the drum kit is actually from Superior Drummer 2, which is also included in Superior Drummer 3. It's the New York Avatar, and I think it's great that they still use it in their latest rendition of Superior Drummer. So you still have the sound, if you are familiar, like the snares. I think it has been 6 or 7 snares back then, but some of them sounded really, really good. And also the cymbals that you can see here. And so you can combine the old one and the new ones. So if you are used to different styles, there are almost no limitations, and you still have the expansion packs that you can use. So it's just still the plain Superior Drummer line, and nothing from, let's say, the Metal Foundry or Legacy of Rock from Bob Rock, or Al Schmidt, Eddie Kramer, all these names. So quite cool to actually use them all to make it happen, and to use it for your productions as well as I do. Can you choose between the strings and frets you want to use? Are there key switches for that, or other possibilities? Well, I actually guess so. I have to say I'm not really used to programming bass on a very, very high level, as I use it usually for pre-production purposes, but I'm pretty sure that you can adjust the tunings and the actual strings, because I know it makes a difference if you hit an open string, or if you use your fingers to hit a string on your fretboard. So that makes a total different sound, and that's what people often forget. So I guess it really comes down with the different tunings that you can have. If you, for example, use a 4-string or a 5-string tuning, and which role plays the B string or the E string. So I'm pretty sure that you're able to do that. Okay, so we talked about drums and bass, but for me, majorly being a keyboard player, I would like to access the keyboard world as well. So before we bring it all together, I thought about giving it some shout out. So let's open up a session with the keys, and then we can step through the different options, because I haven't prepared anything. I just thought about let's going through them together, and what you hear is what you get actually. And you can decide whether you like it, or which presets or instruments you like best. As usually, I would like to start with piano sound, because I'm a piano player, and then we move on with the keys, with the keyboards, the electronic ones. So what I installed is the Studio Grant. The Studio Grant is one of the expansion packs that comes with the EZkeys line that you can choose. Also, if you do the complete or the diploma course at HOFA-College, this would be one option that you can redeem your code and your license, and then you get the Studio Grant. And we have some different kind of sounds and presets. Let's start with something that is called standard. I guess it's a typical grand piano sound. Let's see what's happening. Really warm sound, kind of mellow. I think it really matches a lot of songs in the, let's say, pop genre. Raw tweaks, this sounds kind of interesting. A little bit of different. Let's move on with a boogie room. Okay, interesting. See what we have here. Oh, a very atmospheric sound. It's great for scoring, for example, or if you're searching for a pad sound. I know there are a lot of other software libraries like Omnisphere and Native Instruments and all of them, but it's cool that they also include some more atmospheric sounds in their usual Studio Grant line. So let's see what we have. There's a lot of pre-delay going on actually, so I can lower the amount of reverb. We even have an octaver and a stereo enhancer. Oh, that's a quite dangerous tool, I think. So if you really go beyond the 100% of the stereo field, this might result in some problems. So maybe I lowered them by, let's say, 50%. Okay, it's more close to a mono sound. So back to the 100%. Reverb's actually missing. Kind of cool effect, I think. I might use this one for the next production to see what's happening. Okay, Wasteland. For Wasteland we actually have a delay time. We have some reverb, some EQ, but I guess it's a frequency band for a higher Q factor. I'm not quite sure about that. Very atmospheric as well. Kind of cool. So there are a lot of things from the classical piano style until yeah, it even comes to like pad sounds with a lot of atmosphere going on. I think it's a great tool for scoring films, or to use some pad sounds combined with piano sounds already, so you have layers, pre-produced layers that you can use and adjust in your production workflow, which is a really, really cool thing. So for the electric pianos, I think there is the Electric 200A, which is more of a Wurlitzer kind of thing, as you might hear. Where's the pedal? There it is. Here you have that bell-esque sound, like a vintage 60-70 sound. Let's add some phaser. There it is at 0%. Okay. Yeah, some cool things going on. Rotary speaker. So really dig the world of Pink Floyd, I guess. Yeah. Really cool stuff going on here as well. And again, you don't have too much options to control and to adjust the actual sound, but some things like the amount of overdrive or the speed of the modulation of the rotary speaker and the reverb added, so you can really build up some quite cool soundscapes. As I mentioned, Pink Floyd, like in their early days, in the late 60s, early 70s, they used a lot of that stuff, like on the Echoes track. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you are into that more psychedelic world, you might find some really cool stuff with EZkeys and their vintage sound expansions. Okay, so let's go for another one. I think there is, yeah, the MK1, which also reveals itself as a typical vintage electric piano. It's a Rhodes, according to the look and the pedals and what you can do. And yeah, let's give it a listen. I'm always thinking of the Doors by hearing that sound. was actually the default preset, so I guess there's a lot of things going on, like a rotary speaker as well. I guess some tremolo stuff that you can bring in, some distorted ambience, okay, with a drive knob, which might be cool. Yeah, really cool stuff going on. So, but I would actually stick with the usual Rhodes sounds, which works for almost every production they're coming into. So yeah, how about bringing them all together, like our first track, or one of our first tracks, which was, I think it was the bass riff. Yeah, there it is. So let's activate that project. So here we are, EZkeys, and yeah, one thing that we haven't heard yet is an expansion pack that I found interesting. It's the cinematic pads. The cinematic pads, as the title reveals, is more based on scoring, pad sounds, virtual analog sounds. So yeah, maybe we can make it happen to add some keys to our little section with drums and bass. You remember that little D minor pentatonic scale based on the bass guitar. Let's give it another listen first. Yeah, I think we'll go for a more classic sound, like clean the eye with a pick, so we have some more space left in the mixing, and for the keys to make it actually happen. Okay, cool, that works. Let's see what we have here. Which kind of sound? Cinematic pads. Yeah, that's not that bad. I think the release time is quite high. Maybe we can lower this one a little bit. Probably more attack and maybe less ambience. So let's see if it works. Yeah, I think that might work. Okay, let's give it a try. Recording. Okay, worked. Then we have our MIDI information. What I played was D minor, B major using an inversion, C major, and finally G minor, which adds G major, which adds a little bit of a Dorian feel to the whole thing. So we have the D minor pentatonic, which is great. So we don't have any semitones going on, and I try to fill these space by using some basic chords, some inversions, but also not only chords that are part of the D minor scale, because I added the G major chord to have a major sixth in D minor, which is borrowed actually from the Dorian mode, and I think it actually worked. So let's give it another listen. Go for another sound, because there are many more that we could use. For example, they actually have categories with this one. So we have bell sounds, fat pads. I guess that might not be the right one for this little section, but maybe we can find something in the string section. Calm chaos. yeah, that might sound quite cool. So maybe going a little bit down with the release time as well. Let's see what it sounds like. It's actually something like an organ sound compared and layered with a pad sound. Okay, let's see how it works. I already did the recording. I think it's just an example of how we could use these tools for add some life to the basic part of the bass guitar and the drums, so we have lots of space for melodies still. So there could be, for example, a guitar solo going on or a singer singing in that part, and yeah, bringing it all together so finally it can shine. And yeah, I think another good example for these packs for expansion packs like the EZkeys Electric, MK1, Studio Grand, or the cinematic pads. So there's a lot of things to discover, but also some options to adjust the actual MIDI. For example, you can also drag the MIDI files to this editor. So we have another editor like in the Superior Drummer line, and it also asks me if I would like to transpose the MIDI file that I just import. So I guess you can set the key, which is correct. If I click on the key, so I can tell it might be a D minor scale, or maybe a B major scale, so an F major scale, sorry. So it depends on what you would like to do. Again, I would rather focus on using it with my MIDI editor that I have in my DAW, because I'm really used to it for quite a while. But there are almost no limitations, and you can also adjust your MIDI files in these editors that come with the Superior and the EZbass and the EZkeys line, which is a cool thing to have, yeah, production options and purposes that you can follow. That's a really, really cool thing. Okay, can you play the piano without a synth? I think I did, or at least I hope so. Yeah, I shall switch the additional pad. Okay, so maybe. Let's go for the keys again. There we are. So the Studio Grand. There it is. Okay. I actually hear the piano as it should sound like, so I'm not sure what you mean with that you hear any pad sounds going on. Yeah, what do I think about the grooves included? Especially for the Superior Drummer, they are really, really great, and a lot of things that you can do. As mentioned, as I being a drummer myself, I usually come up with my own ideas, but if you really want to use some of these grooves, you have a lot of categories. You have styles like blues, pop, country, rock. For sections like the verse, like any variations like bridges, pre-chorus, chorus lines. So there's a lot of things that you can try and bring them all together, for example, in their very own editor. So you have different sections and you can still adjust these grooves. As mentioned, I'm not the type of guy that uses a lot of loops or pre-programmed grooves, because I usually do it myself, but you can use the pool that you really get. So as you can see, there's a selection that you can take by name. I don't know what family means, but the power hand is probably the way of hitting, and yeah, which works in that production kind of style. So why not using one of them like this? So we can have it here, and as you can see, if I double click, go into the grid editor, there we have some of the MIDI files going on. Yeah, I can, oh, it's muted, doesn't really make sense. So yeah, there it is, and it works. Yeah, they're quite realistic, so there's a lot of velocity layers going on. They put in some real effort in detailed work, so yeah, I could definitely recommend using them. Yeah, why not? Okay, so yeah, that's basically it for today. Ah, there's a synth sound going on. Okay, I see. That's definitely interesting. So let's take a look at the routing. Maybe it's this one here. So okay, is it better? So can you hear the actual piano? Yes, it's working now. Okay, so let's do again the section with the pianos and the electric stuff, because I guess there might really be some routing going on, because there are quite a lot of keyboards in my home studio, and as you may have been right, so I might not hear it on my headphones. So yeah, let's go for it again, so you get a proper idea of what you actually get. So here's the keys project. So, and then we'll do it again and go through the different piano sounds to get an idea. So I think we started with the standard one from the Studio Grand. Okay, let's hope it works. Okay, so I think we also did something like the Boogie Room. And I think we also had the Atmos, which actually had some pads going on. And the Wasteland, a lot of delay, I think. Really cool opportunities. A lot of more to discover, of course. Okay, let's go for the electric pianos. I think we started with the Wurlitzer. Default, typical sound. Okay, maybe tremolo delay. Clean ambience. Can be used as a pad sound. Okay, and the Rhodes. A little bit of the Doors. It always reminds me of the Doors in the 70s when hearing a Rhodes. And yeah, a lot of things to do, a lot of things to come up with. So I think the EZkey section is quite a cool production tool when seeking for a specific sound like Rhodes, Wurlitzer or piano sound without having the opportunity to adjust every little detail. So you have really great presets, go-to sounds, and you can really use them in your studio productions for whatever reasons and for whatever productions. So yeah, I think it's really cool, and I hope it finally worked regarding the routing. And yeah, I think we're actually done for today with a little show up, a little introduction to the Toontrack products, what you can do, how you can use them, how I use them, sharing a little bit of my approach when it comes to songwriting, or sending some ideas to musicians, or being asked to come up with a drum programming that suits the song or whatever. So I think these tools are great for any production purpose, be it the pre-production or even maybe the final mixing and mastering. So like I said, a lot of drum programming is used nowadays for different genres, and yeah, why not using all of that stuff and that opportunity? So I guess Toontrack products offer a quite range and variety of options that you can use to make all of that happen. Yeah. Thanks for the great compliments. So yeah, I think that's actually it for today. And yeah, feel free to get in touch if you have any questions regarding our courses or the products themselves, and whatever is coming to your mind. Thank you very much for your wishes. Yeah, I hope so. I guess maybe by next week I'm all in again. That would be great. Thank you so much. You're really welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed today's session. Alright, so let's see if I can make it happen.